Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name Muhammad Faizuddin bin Muhammad Kamal. I'm from J4 EC1104C2. In this video, I want to present about the mini project of ECG263. Here, student required to conduct 5 tests, which is water content determination, particle density, particle size, grading and texture, field density, and lastly permeability. This is my site sampling location. First of all, we take the soil from the location. The first test is water content determination. The apparatus that I use is 3 trays, weighing balance, and the sample of soil. First, separate the soil sample into 3 parts and then weigh the soil sample using weighing balance. After that, expose the soil under the sunlight for a drying process for a whole day, so the water will evaporate to the surrounding. The next day, weigh the 3 trays with the dry soil and then record all of the data. Secondly, particle density test. The apparatus that I use is water, ruler, weighing balance, container, and then a soil sample. Firstly, put the soil sample into the 36 gram container and then pour some water into the container. After that, stir the mixture to remove the foam or bubble that containing in the soil and then leave it for 2 hours to 10 hours. Here is the result after a few hours. The next step, fill the container with the water until it full. When finished, pour the water into the container, put the lid on, and then before weigh the sample, wipe the water around the container to avoid any errors. After finish all of that, clear the jar that contain the sample and then fill the water into the container until it full and then put the lid on. Finally, weigh the container and the water and record the mass. The third test is particle size, grading and texture. The apparatus that I use is 3 types of sieve that has different hole size, weighing balance, ruler and the soil sample. Mass of dry soil that I use is 500 gram. Weigh the 3 types of DIY sieve using weighing balance and then record all of the data. Put the 500 gram of soil sample into the first DIY sieve and make sure all of the soil sample go into the sieve. At this point, shake and filter the soil sample properly so that no soil will be excluded from the DIY sieve. Then put the remaining soil sample that get from the first sieve into the second sieve. Same way as the first one, which is filter and shake the soil sample properly. At this step is same like others, which is the remaining soil will be inserted into the DIY sieve and then make sure there is no soil left behind. Same precaution, check and filter the soil sample properly and also carefully. The last remaining soil sample that has been filtered must be kept for a week. Finally, weigh the soil sample and the DIY sieve for all of the three sizes using weighing balance. Don't forget the last remaining soil to be weighed. The next test is permeability test. The apparatus that I use is 3 bottles, weighing balance, marker, ruler, and soil sample. This is the bottle that I use for the test. As we can see here, the hole that I made is not exactly at the bottom, and there is a gap between the bottom of the bottle and the hole, so the water can go out from the bottle through the hole smoothly. Firstly, insert the soil sample into each of the bottle. After that, compact the soil sample and then fill up the water in the bottles and leave it for a while until the soil sample is fully saturated. Here is the time-lapse video where I top up the water till it reach the first level mark, and then start observe the time for water to reach from H1 to H2, H2 to H3, and H3 to H4. The last test is field density testing. The apparatus that I use is weighing balance, ruler, steel container, hammer, and a piece of wood. Here is the steel container that I use at the site location. First of all, clear any trash or grass on the ground. Press the steel container a little bit and put a piece of wood on the steel container and start tap the piece of wood with a hammer until the steel container fully embedded in the soil. After finish that step, remove the soil that's surrounding the steel container so it can be pulled off easily. For this step, trim the excessive soil from the steel container to get the same level of soil and the steel container. Also clean up excess soil that found at the outer surface of steel container. And finally, weigh the steel container with the soil sample. And that's all my presentation video. Thank you for watching. Assalamualaikum.